Stop me if you've heard this one before. Black person versus white cop. White cop wins, demands for justice, calls for peace, calls for accountability, calls for reform, calls for police abolishment, and all in all, we reach no real conclusion whatsoever after the verdict comes out that either proves that the officer acted in a justifiable manner or an unjustifiable manner. 2 years ago, a woman by the name of Takaya Young ended up not being on this earth anymore at the hands of a police officer.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
Well, protesters marched through the short north tonight in honor of Takaya Young. Good evening and thanks for joining us at 11, everybody. I'm Yolanda Harris. Andrew is off tonight. This protest comes hours after Blendon Township Police released the body camera video showing Takaya Young, a pregnant mother, being shot and killed by police in a Kroger parking lot. And that's where we find 10 TV's Richard Solomon tonight. Richard, what do these protesters want?
Well, Yolanda, their answer is simple. They want the raw and edited version of that body camera video. And that is also something that Takaya's family has been pushing for ever since that shooting happened here in this Kroger parking lot. And speaking of this Kroger, at the front entrance, there are water cases blocking the door and a sign that reads they are temporarily closed. Demonstrators say they are fighting for justice for both mother and child.
Then get out.
It's the several seconds of this Blendon Township body camera video that has so many people enraged.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!
Hours after the body camera video showing the shooting death of pregnant 21-year-old Takaya Young was released, demonstrators marched through the short north because of what they saw.
It's also just another reminder of, like, every time that something like this happens, every time we're plagued with violence in this city, it's a reminder that our solutions are not actually leading to anything better or more safe.
More than a week after the incident, Blendon Township Police released the video showing two officers flag down Young because an employee said she was stealing liquor. A few moments pass and Young starts to turn the wheel, pulling away from officers. Then,
Get out of the car.
FOP Vice President Brian Steele says the officer who shot Young has not yet been interviewed by BCI.
Outside looking in, based on my training and experience, from what I saw in that video, I believe it was, I understand why it could be justified, but again, I don't make that decision. Ultimately, a grand jury is going to make that decision.
But for them, it's simply not enough.
Their name!
What they want is real change. So no mother, no child, no family dies by the hand of law enforcement again.
And when that story was gaining traction, you had people speed running to the end because information coming out those same few days and weeks and months since didn't really matter to any of them. What mattered is the skin color on skin color. White cop versus black woman, with the added note that this was a pregnant black woman. The most disrespected group in American history. So you could understand that some people were willing to speed run that. And when it comes to speed running with information, it's important that you understand, even though I've beaten it into you again and again and again, it needs to be remembered that people are willing to ignore any real context as to how we got to the ending because the beginning and the middle make them look bad.
I'm responding to this comment because I'm tired of seeing it. So I'm going to read the comment and then I'm going to break down why the comment is a bunch of BS. And of course, it's always the people who don't have a face to the name that is making comments like this. But I've seen this comment at least, I would say 15 times since this story has came out. So for starters, they said she stole from the grocery store. There is no evidence of her stealing anything. So this just goes to show that y'all are so quick to believe negative commentary about black women.
This pregnant black woman, Takaya Young, was shot and killed because they thought she stole some liquor.
They took a 21-year-old pregnant black woman from this earth for allegedly stealing. And to the CEO of Kroger and your employees, you should be disappointed. Shame on you too. You're a multi-million-dollar company with overpriced groceries calling the police on a woman over liquor. I'm more than sure you weren't taking any loss. You already underpay your employees.
All right, let's talk about it. And I'm not here to change your mind because you seem like one of those types that's just pro-police no matter what they do. So let's talk about the facts. Let's take emotion out of it, okay? Let's take the facts out, which is what the police officers do. They take emotion out of it. They don't give a fuck they talking to a human, which is sick to me. But let's do that. Let's take the emotion out. Let's look at the facts. She didn't steal anything. Fact number one. An employee came out the store, okay? An employee is one human, the woman is another. Why is one word being taken over another word? Oh, I know, because one was white and one is black.
And I don't understand why we want to have this conglomerate of people believing that if you refuse to talk about what actually happened, it's somehow an affront to how you walk amongst the world. But I promise you, no one's going to kill you for stating the obvious or stating a fact in an ongoing story. A story could change with further information that is truthful. That is correct. But when we have information anybody could see, it starts to create the conversation of what is fact and what is fiction. And with the fiction of Takaya Young, it was people claiming that she never stole anything from the store, or she did, but it was still in the store, or she didn't really do anything warranting a cop to even be speaking to her in the first place, or it was she wasn't even moving the car, or the officer wasn't even in position to be hit by said car.
The body cam footage of the murder of Takaya Young was released at 10 a.m. today, September 1st, 2023. And I just watched it. I'm not going to be sharing the video on my platform because, quite frankly, I don't feel comfortable showing a video of a black woman being murdered. The body cam footage that I watched lasted about 50 seconds. That's about how long it took for them to take Takaya Young's life and her unborn daughter. After accusing her of stealing, even though they had absolutely no proof except for a worker that had worked at the Kroger.
Not only do racist white people believe the lies told by police, racist white people will then take those lies and spread them everywhere to try to push this false narrative about what takes place when officers murder black people. Takaya Young never tried to run anyone over. The body cam footage clearly shows her driving around the officer, trying to get away from these psychopaths that drew their guns out on her because supposedly she was shoplifting, but they didn't find any shoplifted items in her vehicle. So miss me with this bullshit propaganda and take your comments somewhere else.
All these manners of defense and excuses to try to speak truth to power as to how this officer acted in an overbearing manner and unjustifiably killed the woman. Well, shock of all shocks to anyone who wasn't paying attention 2 years ago. That man was acquitted of all the charges that could have put him in jail for a long time. And obviously, the reaction is about what you'd expect.
In what world does it make sense to take somebody's life because they're accused of shoplifting? That's what happened in Ohio, August 24, 2023. Takaya Young was at a grocery store and she was accused of shoplifting. 2 officers got involved. One of them jumped in front of her car when she was trying to get out of the parking lot, and she turned her wheel and slowly started rolling forward. It seems like she might have been trying to get around him, and he fired 1 bullet into the front windshield, killing her and her unborn child. She was about 25 weeks pregnant. Just for her being accused of shoplifting, she is no longer here. And the officer who did it, Connor Grubb, gets to walk free because today he got acquitted of any wrongdoing.
But I need you all to understand something. When we were talking about this 2 years ago, it was interesting seeing the spin. It was interesting seeing people try their best to pretend like this woman was just walking out of the store and all of a sudden a bunch of cops surrounded her because they wanted to fixate on their fetish of getting rid of a black person. Because, you know, black fatigue was something to think about even in 2023. But in reality, we saw what was needed to be seen via security camera footage and body camera footage, which proves the woman did steal liquor and the woman was trying to flee the scene. And as she was doing so, a cop was in front of her car, not on the side, in front of her car, which made it seem like, in their minds, she's not only trying to flee the scene, but run over an officer, which is going to cause them to react a little bit quicker. Do I believe it should have been a gun? No. I even said it was justified, but it could have been avoided, because we reached this point of talking about what cops need to be doing at certain moments, and everybody wants to talk about the heat of the moment and how the cops got to protect themselves and the ongoing community, because you got a bunch of people in a public area like a grocery store. You got to factor in all these things, which is important. I will still hold the opinion that, a little shock of a taser could have been way better than a bullet to the side, the head, the chest, any of these manners of affection, because I deem it not really necessary in that moment. Yes, they're trying to flee the scene, and I understand that. But you mean to tell me you can't quick one tap with that electrical device and have them and shove off to the side, get them out the car, put them in handcuffs, question them, and once you find out that they actually stole the liquor, book them for that, and then we all go on about our merry way. I feel like that, even though it's a lot of steps to get to that point, is way better than the fanfare that we got. Why? Because the woman would still be alive, and we wouldn't even be having these conversations. But I want to bring it back to the main point. People openly lying just because they want to pretend like they're not willingly able to see something that anybody and everybody else saw by just looking for the information. It's important that while you're trying to sit there and spin your narrative about how as black people, we got to constantly run and look over our shoulders all the time, because that white man, especially if they got that badge and that gun, are going to be hunting us down 24/7. But when you sit there and carry that notion with stories that don't fit, you make it seem less credible when stories like that actually occur. You make it out to be, hey, we're making this up as we go along, and in any moment where we see a white cop versus a black person, we could spin this to always be black person is the victim, white cop in the wrong, history of patriarchy, something about supremacy, and a little bit of privilege sprinkled in the middle. We can make this story about victimhood more than we can make it about accountability in the moment, or learning actual details about the story to either further our point or destroy that fucking point so we could goalpost shift into something else. And when it comes to this woman, may she rest in peace. I don't believe she should have been off this earth. I believe she should have carried that baby all the way to the term and raised the child, had a healthy child, and lived a life. But because of 1 and 2 fuck-ups, you're not on this earth anymore. And while your family is grieving, especially around the holidays, because this came out, I think, a few days before Thanksgiving, so it would have been a sour taste in their mouths. I'll hold respect for them, but I'm not going to ignore the facts of how this played out. I'm not going to ignore the beginning and the middle because you all want to change the ending to make yourself feel better. Sorry that you don't have a family member there anymore, but these motherfuckers who spent so much time trying their hardest to change the story to fit making you and themselves feel better, that's not the reality we live in. And I'm gonna need y'all to start operating a little bit better with information, because it's getting fucking old how desperate y'all are to be lying for just a little bit of clout and a little bit of recognition so that you can sound like you care for the people. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Mwah. Goodbye.